Thank you all for joining. So this is the data-driven digital webinar. We haven't done one of these for a little while now. So just to let everyone know, we've taken a bit of a change in strategy and a change of approach on these. Obviously, we did used to run them every single month. We used to run them in person, either in Sydney or in Singapore. Since coming back to the office and people starting to work together, I think people are still not fully in the office, so actually getting people together is quite challenging in a physical location. So what we've decided to do is keep these as webinars for the time being. We're also going to do a few less of them a year, so we were doing them every month. And what we've decided is that we're going to focus on quality rather than quantity. So what we're going to do is between 4 to 6 events every single year. And we're going to make sure that we find the best possible speakers for you on this topic of data-driven digital. And I think we're really living up to that today. We've got this great line of speakers lined up for you today, starting with Botify. So just a quick reminder of who I am. My name is Paul Hewitt. I am the host of this event and I'm a partner in Marketing We Trust. And I'm based in Sydney, but obviously when we're traveling and when our international operation is open, I'm also looking after the Singapore area as well. And a reminder about this event and why we started it. So this is an event dedicated to sharing the latest thinking about data-driven digital marketing. So we're aiming to bring you the very best digital marketing speakers that we can find. And we do this for 3 reasons. The first reason is to share digital marketing expertise. And then the next is to share digital tool product knowledge. So the kind of hands-on stuff rather than just being theoretical. And I think we've got a really great blend of that in both talks today. And then the third one is to build a community of digital marketers. So a reminder of who we are. We're in Marketing We Trust. We are in an online performance marketing agency based in Sydney, but we operate globally. And we work across 3 different pillars. So we work from a measurement perspective. So this is a very big service for us right now with all of the GA4 stuff going on, as you can imagine. We're one of 20 certified Google marketing partners in Australia. So we're doing a lot of tag management, a lot of analytics solution, data studio work, BigQuery work, all of those sorts of measurement related services. And then we also work in the growth area. So SEO, particularly enterprise SEO and large scale SEO, which will really come across when my colleague James starts speaking about the work that we've done for some of these large websites and platforms later. But we're also working across display, video, social, programmatic for a wide range of companies across. We're in about 40 different countries at the moment. Small team with a big reach. And then on the optimization side of things, we do the conversion rate optimization solutions as well. Apologies for my hoarse voice, by the way. I'm close to losing my voice today. Bad timing. So just a very quick note that if you do have any speakers that you think would be good for this event, let me know. As I mentioned, quality is really important to us. So if you see a great speaker in an event or a conference that is talking about data-related topics and digital marketing-related topics, let me know. We'd be happy to have a conversation with them. And then next is give us some love, please. We spend a lot of time preparing presentations for everyone, a lot of time marketing them, speaking to presenters, just to bring in those really good insights that you can all learn from. So we would like, you can see here, we've got 31 million reviews already, all 5-star, of course. We'd like that to be 31,000,001. So please don't hesitate to go over and to Google reviews and give us a really nice glowing review. So without any more hesitation, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. So just as a bit of context, we are an enterprise SEO agency, and we do a lot of large scale SEO work for very big websites. So some of the websites that we're dealing with have 1 million, 2 million, 5 million pages. And so we've built out expertise and products and tech that really help us and our team deliver that. And my colleague James is going to talk about that later. But one of the key parts of our, or one of the key tools that we're using really is Botify. We've always been a big fan for many, many years. And we use it for a number of our clients. And so what we wanted to do was start introducing that to the community and really just show you what the tool is capable of doing. So this talk is on AI-powered SEO, and the talk is going to be given by Agatha, and I'm sure she'll introduce herself in a moment, but just for a bit of background, she is client director here in Australia, and she is an SEO ninja. She's got tons of SEO experience, hands-on stuff. So she's coming to this with some serious experience and knowledge for you. Okay, so Agatha, over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be finally featured one of those talks. We know you've always been a great fan, as you've mentioned, we're using Botify for ages. And now that we have presence on the ground in Australia, it's awesome to be able to use your platform to talk to our lovely SEO community. So hello, everybody. I'm going to quickly share my screen. All right. Are you okay to see my screen? All good? Beautiful. So thank you for the warm introduction. Just to mention, Botify has been a platform widely used in Europe and US for many years, but it hasn't been really properly it haven't really had presence in the APAC region, and the brand decided to enter Australian Asian markets last year, and I was the first employee for the ANZ market. I've had 15 years of experience working in different agencies such as Performix, iCrossing, and Pattern International here in that are based in Melbourne. I also work client side and for the SEO platforms such as Bright Edge, and that was back in Europe. So hopefully, hopefully today will be a good introduction to Botify, but also be able to share some of the experiences I had as an SEO with different platforms and what I've learned along the way. And hopefully my passion for automation will come across, because I know all the pains that you've been going through as SEOs on your day-to-day, and how we as SEOs deserve to make our life easier. So this is what this today will be about. And just to break some ice, I have a guilty pleasure of playing PC games. My favorite is Heroes of Might and Magic. And I do have an Elvish nickname from back in the day, and it's Ara Darwin. So now that you know all my dark secrets, we'll introduce Botify. We're an SEO enterprise platform. And as I've mentioned, we have multiple locations across the globe. And now we have presence on the ground in Sydney. We're building out the team, and we have a giant office in Singapore as well as Tokyo. And we have 1,500 plus customers globally, some of the biggest brands that are using Botify for years. And we're going to talk about it later in a bit more detail. So I want to cover today, starting with talking about why I think SEO is important. And particularly now, as we know, things changed in the past 2 years for the better for us, but also for the worse in some sense, because we have so much more work, higher expectations, but still a lot of the times running on the same low budgets that we've been given before the pandemic started. I want to run through some SEO challenges and expose some of the sins that we are SEOs been committing in the past few years, and what led us to the point where we are now, that we have to fight for the budgets for SEO. And I want to then jump into the platform and show you how Botify can help you automate some of those tasks that you're doing the day-to-day. And I want to finish off with some case studies. I'm going to throw some SEO jokes out there, because what's the presentations about SEO without SEO jokes? And I think we all need cheering up this week, although Will Smith really helped us with this already. So why SEO is so important? Because every time you touch a website, and it's not just us as SEO, because the website is a living organism that has a lot of different people, doing things to it all the time. And it's very hard to keep up with, what changes being made to the site, particularly if we have marketing people in the CMS all the time making changes to content, and we know what that can end up with. And it's particularly when you have a large website, you want to stay on top of everything that's going on. It's really important that you have some form of automation in place that help you manage that. Otherwise, it's just not simply possible to go into the website on a daily basis and check on all those main SEO KPIs and issues. Unfortunately, Botify, we know that 14% of enterprises are categorized as optimizer, meaning they're investing enough in SEO, in people, processes, and technology. Okay, so we still have much more work to do there. And it's really disappointing, because we know that 90% of searches do not go past the first page of search results, right? And 80% of users actually ignore paid ads. So meaning, organic search should be the focus. And there are more than 3,200 search engine algorithm updates each year. So again, it's very hard to keep up with all the changes and how they affect the website. So for that, why so far we haven't had enough investment in SEO, and only until the last 2 years that the investments increased a little bit, but still, you probably find yourself being the only SEO in the company still with just bigger expectations, and that's just not. That's just simply not how it should be. And we as SEO need to fight for the change. So I want to go through some of the sins that we as SEO have been doing, and how we contributed actually maybe to the predicament that we're in. So how many of you actually been in a position where your organic search performance dependent on algorithm change and search results? So obviously, sometimes when there was a Google update, we benefited from it, because maybe we've done some great content on the way, and Google actually rewarded us for this, and then we were really happy about that. But there were obviously times where that wasn't the case, and we were got hit quite badly. And so to change that, we need to start practicing proactive SEO, and monitoring our top technical KPIs across the site is the way to do it, and always knowing what is going on. So never be surprised, and always know, why certain things happen the way they happen. Another sin that we probably all committed is we practice SEO without any visibility into Google's activities on your site. Okay, how many of you actually work with log files and understanding what content Google actually sees on the site? And I definitely committed that one in the past. So to take your SEO to the next level and ensure that all the content that you're putting out there, and there's a lot of pressure to put a great content out there to get rankings, it's actually being accessed by Google. It's actually being seen by Google, crawled, indexed, and ranked on the website, on Google search results, actually drives visits to the website. And you're not going to know this unless you actually have visibility into how Google interacts with the site. And finally, third sin that probably some of us committed as well, we use a lot of free or cheap tools and mixed data sets from sources of different methodologies. I mean, as much as fun it can be, it is super time consuming and not always results in a fantastic result or analysis that will be adding value to what we're trying to do, or providing a breakthrough in our strategy. So I think it's really important that we think about using first-party data that talks to each other in one environment, as opposed to mixing different data sets, which can be affected and has been, because we've been forced to act this way because we haven't had much funding, or there haven't been great platforms out there historically that could provide us with that data set. But to mix that data so that it provides you with the most accurate and relevant insights, as well as recommendations for the website. So a lot of the times brand and we as SEO, again, simply because we maybe don't have the capability to look at those data points in one place, we spend time thinking about what the competitors are doing, okay? And think about the percentage of time we actually do competitive analysis, competitive reporting, but so what, right? We actually, if we were spending as much time doing analysis on our own website, it would, work better for us. So I think we just, as SEOs, we need to admit that maybe we've been set in our own ways for so many years. And I've been there in a corner looking at the PPC guys going at the parties with Google because they had everything automated for them, but they did have the time to do that. Whereas we as SEO had to stay longer and crunch data, break few Excel spreadsheets. And now I think it's a time that we break this pattern and actually start looking out for solutions that will help with the day-to-day, because we still under-resourced and still need help to reach all those crazy targets that have been set up for us. So at Botify, we actually understand that particularly large sites are struggling to scale, and on average, only 23% of pages are actually active, meaning they receive at least one visit in the last 30 days. And how can this be true? Well, if only 23% of your website is working towards driving conversion from search traffic, that means that all the other content that you're putting out there, there's a good chance that's never going to be found. If it's new long form content on the blog, or maybe new product launches. And we always wonder, like, I wonder why it has like 5 new visits this month for this particular blog post. Oh, actually, and they're from our team. It's because probably simply Google don't have enough crawl budget to access this content. And it's impossible to understand if you have enough crawl budget to go to that new content, because you just don't simply have visibility in that data. And we at Botify, we actually integrate log files, and amongst all the other data points like our crawling data, our SERP performance and analytics, we actually look at log files and marry log files and crawl data together to provide you with that visibility. Okay, so out of the crawled URLs, how many of those actually being accessed by Google and are crawled, indexed, and ranked? So why are we not having visibility in that? And why is Google not actually, why is Google not crawling all the pages? What's the problem with the crawl budget? And the main reasons for that are usually there's millions of URLs that Google is spending time crawling, and some of them are not even within your current linking structure. They actually something we call orphan pages, and they're currently floating somewhere in the web universe, but they're not linked within your site structure. Therefore, a crawler cannot pick them up, but Google nonetheless still spends time accessing those pages, even though they're redundant, so they no longer drive any value to the site. So understanding what those pages are will be super important. You can have multiple site versions that Google spends a lot of time on, thousands of different metrics, obviously limited resources and limited budgets. That's what's causing all these issues for you. So at Botify, we actually look at the full funnel, or we're looking at organic search as a full funnel as opposed to just ranking. So another probably fourth sin as SEOs, historically, we've been just focusing on the ranking data. And a lot of platforms are designed around the scraping around rankings. Now, this is not the full story, right? We're missing the most important piece, which is what's being crawled, what's being rendered, what's being indexed. And we know based on our data that only around 50% of the sites is actually indexed. And then out of those indexed, how many are ranked and how many of those are converting. And our solutions build a way the search works. And you can see all that data every step of the way in the platform, talking to each other and providing you with full visibility in the search funnel. So we're gonna know about through Botify crawl, we crawl the website, then we integrate the log files and understand what out of those, what's the percentage of those being crawled, index, ranked, followed by the conversion data from the GA. So we're using first party data only, not scraping the web. We're actually doing the analysis for you that you would normally try to do in Excel spreadsheet. 4 hours, a lot of the times, missing certain bits of data for obvious reasons. We're pretty good at getting log file data from clients. They normally pretty adamant to give into the data to agencies, for example, but 99% of time, because we meet all the security checks, we're able to get the log file data, and the analysis is really powerful. I'm going to show it to you in the platform in a second. Now, why do SEOs value Botify? Is because it has a comprehensive technical analysis, and we specialize at crawling at scale. So if you have a large website, e-commerce, publishing, but even 50,000 pages, but you really serious about SEO, and the brand is really serious about SEO and want to invest in automation technology, is still a good solution for you. But crawling JavaScript at scale that's where we excel, and nobody can beat us. We have availability of data that's unmatched. We don't charge any extras for a number of URLs, a number of keywords. We don't do any of that. When you sign up with Botify, you don't pay extra for anything. And we have unlimited number of crawls, and we can crawl 250 URLs per second. So as you can imagine, we crawl websites at 50 million in like a couple of days. We have, when it comes to unlimited availability of data, we also on day one, we give our customers 16 months worth of daily ranking for all the keywords they're ranking for. And this is pulled through the Google API from Google Search Console, but you getting all the keywords as opposed to just 1,000 keywords that Google just drops on you in their software. So you can track keyword ranking at scale, which is really powerful, particularly if you have a lot of keywords. Segmentation, that's another piece that our customers are valuing, because we can look at any data in the platform using segmentations that we're building for everybody. And I'm going to show it to you. This is really cool. And finally, the automation, again, something that I've mentioned before, giving ourselves a chance to have spare time to actually execute on the work, as opposed to doing the analysis, should be the goal of every SEO, because there are platforms like Botify out there that can help you with that. And we are using machine learning and AI to provide our customers with the best recommendations, the most relevant recommendation, as well as alerting system, which I'm going to show you later in a second. A normal Botify customer lifecycle would start with maybe something small like SEO migration, site migration. That's usually pretty major. And because we can crawl at scale with even JavaScript, we're perfect tool for any URL mapping file. And then obviously any technical checks and alert system that's in place throughout the site migration. Maybe once the site migration is done and all the cleanup's been completed, then the brand will focus on crawl budget optimization. So looking at the log file and crawl data and clean up all those orphan pages and ensuring that the crawl budget, the valuable crawl budget, has been redirected to the new content as opposed to hanging around the old redundant content. And then the customer might look at their optimization of their existing content, because there's always a lot that you can do, a lot of duplicates that you can remove and improve their content quality. And we have a special content analysis that's really great for that. Internal link optimization, we have unmatched internal linking analysis in the platform that's been getting rating reviews. And obviously general ranking growth, that will be the final that should come naturally after all the other steps that we've just taken. But particularly when they launch new products or launching new content, our tool is great for monitoring the entire performance, as opposed to just specific keywords that we think are good. All right, that's enough of talking for me now. I know you're probably dying to see the platform, so I'm going to jump straight in. So in the platform, for us, it's all about user experience and being able to use the platform, even if you just have 1 or 3 years SEO experience or 15 years SEO experience. It doesn't really matter, because even for me with 15 years of experience, I still get frustrated when I get into a social solution that's very hard to use. And it just makes me feel stupid, because a lot of the times I just find myself going in circles. I'm not understanding what data I'm looking at, even though I would think, I've seen it all by now. But in Botify, we made it as simple as possible. We actually now introducing the APAC region live chat box as well, where everyone can just ask questions as they go through the platform. So customer support is something that distinguishes us from everyone else as well. But what's really great about segmentations, and by the way, I'm not going to be able to show you the entire platform today, because as you can see, there's a lot of data points in there, but I'm just going to focus on my favorite ones that I think will be most relevant for you at this point. So the segments, we build the segment for all the clients at the beginning. There are different types of segments that we can create. It's super flexible, because we can, and then you can actually update them yourself in our segment editor. So again, the website is a living organism, and constantly need to add or remove segments. That's absolutely fine. But what it does, it helps you then to look at your data by the segmentation. So whatever you are in the platform, you can actually do that. So that's one piece of automation that takes the hassle of actually trying to find the right URLs you're after. In the Sidecrawler, you can see there's a lot of different analysis. So the idea of, I've been through different crawlers. If you just be looking at the crawler itself, I've done a lot of crawlers that require a lot of data crunching and spending hours and killing my computer. So the most frustrating times of my life. So it's really amazing to have a tool that actually does all the data crunching for me and all the analysis for me. And all I have to do is just spend time looking at that, clicking through and going straight to the problem and sending it to the right people to action. So all this valuable time being given back to me by just simply allowing me to, by giving me basically analysis on the plate. And there are different types of analysis. I'm going to show you a couple. When I mentioned the data speak to each other, this is an example where our crawl data talks to the log file data. And basically what we can see here is how many pages been crawled by Botify and how many pages been crawled by Google. Where's the overlap, which is great. This is actually a good view. This has been optimized really well. But you can see here's this blue. These are pages, the orphan pages I mentioned before, that have only been crawled by Google because they're not currently within the linking structure of the website. Therefore, Google is spending time on them, but these pages are probably not valuable at all. All you have to do here is just click on that circle to find out what those pages are, skim through them, and make an action for each of them. Understand, okay, which of those can be killed, redirected, etc., to move all that valuable crawl budget into that orange circle here, where the pages haven't been even accessed by Google so far. Okay, so this is analysis that's really groundbreaking and takes your technical SEO analysis to the next level and gives you that edge on, this is something that you won't be able to get anywhere else. Another cool stuff here is when we have this really awesome chart, URL scrolled by Google by depth. So you can see the below URL scrolled by Google and Botify, which is great. There's a lot of overlap at the beginning, and then kind of the deeper we go in the site structure, it drops and it kind of plateaus here. Okay, so there's obviously a lot of pages deep down there that haven't been accessed by Google. This is an example of data talking to each other with Google Analytics data that we're integrating here as well in Botify, and showing us basically how many of those scrolled URLs by Google actually getting visits. So as you can see, there's a lot of pages on the website that getting 0 visits in the last 30 days. Again, it's very interesting to see how deep the website goes and when the visits kind of drop off significantly. Okay, that kind of level of analysis, this is pretty major for me, particularly because I'm a big, I believe in the power of the right content. And unfortunately, a lot of the times you spend a lot of time putting the content up deep down here that Google will never find. So this is a classic example of that. The demo account that we're looking at, just for context, is a football blog. So unfortunately, his content's not being accessed that much deep down. All right. Moving on, another example of analysis that's pretty major and pretty awesome is the content quality analysis that we do. And the way I've been using it with my clients is allows you to basically see the content versus template ratio. And this is important because we know that Google ignores any content that's templated. That's usually in the mega navigation, the footer, and there's certain elements, maybe in the sidebar. And it basically looks at this piece of text, the HTML text on the site to assess the value of the content. So what's happening when your template, because it's a blog, it's actually amazing ratio. So only 31% of content is template, but I've seen e-com sites where they were in the 70s, 80s template ratio, and all of them got hit by the last year's June and July Google update. It was crazy. They were focusing on the sexy stuff like Core Web Vitals and all the technical SEO elements, which were amazing. But they completely ignored the content piece. So they had, according to Google, they had empty pages focusing just on template, and they got hit. And you can see it here. This report shows you pages by content size and amount of words per page. And obviously black and red is a bad news, but it's ignoring template at the moment. But we're ignoring nothing. This is what Google sees, but we're ignoring nothing. This is what us as users, the website owners, see. And you could think like, yeah, look at all these keywords that we have on pages, right? But actually, when we're ignoring template, this is what Google sees. And this is, I've seen this being 50%, where there's 50% of pages that have between 0 and 100 words. Again, that's really bad news. Okay, so this is just an example of an analysis that you get straight away. And you can look at all this data by segmentation. So straight away, you can see, okay, where the problem areas are. In this case, looks like the forum pages have the most problems. Okay, and then again, everything is clickable. So you would just simply click through that and action those pages straight away. Moving on, we mentioned tracking keywords at scale. And the good news is that we're getting them pulled through on daily rankings for all the keywords a website is ranking for. And this is important because, as I've mentioned before, we almost did the reverse. And it's still, I understand that this is still important to track certain keywords using scraping, but to fully understand the performance of all the keywords at the moment, particularly because the rankings not having so much value anymore, because if you're tracking search specific keywords, they all might rank between position 1 or 3, but it doesn't actually matter because they still might drive less than 100 visits or no visits, because if they're being pushed below default, even though they number 1 in organic, it actually means nothing. So understanding, kind of your full semantic visibility of your content, I feel it's much more powerful these days. And there's a lot of cool analysis that we have here as well within the keyword tracking. You can actually, another fun fact, we actually have Botify Chrome extension that you can use even without logging into the platform. This is the demo account. This is the football blog. And if obviously we have like all the data pulled from Botify into the Chrome extension. But we can say for this particular page, maybe somebody's working on improving the content, that their top 3 keywords are Notre Dame football news, ND football news, and UHND. But if you scroll down, actually we go into much more detail. We can see which of those keywords that this page is ranking for, sorted by impressions. Are they present in the title, the H1, the description, and top anchors? So if somebody's working on optimization of specific pages, then you have to log into the platform and actually get the recommendations straight from the Chrome extension. So, and that's kind of pulled from the real keywords data and the crawl data. Okay. So this is pretty awesome. And again, another way we're trying to automate all your daily tasks without you having to spend hours, crunching the data, doing the crawls and building files that will have that information for you. So coming back to the keywords, you can actually, we create keyword groups when we can quickly look at the data for specific keyword groups, and we can look at the year-on-year data straight away, because I've mentioned we have 16 months worth of data. So this is really cool. And you build the reports that you're after straight away. Okay. We can also measure performance per keyword if we need to, or look at all the URLs that this keyword is ranking for, just to see if there's not maybe any kind of validation that's happening. All right. Another example of where data talk to each other is the keywords, so the keywords and the crawl data analysis under content. We can see, for example, in here, if the main keyword, so the keyword with the highest volume of impressions, is actually present in title, H1, top anchors, URL, and description. So you can see there's a little bit more work to do here. And again, all you have to do is just click through to find out what it looks like and where do you have to update some of those titles potentially. So this is, again, an amazing analysis that's already done for you, and all you have to do is action. Now, finally, because we have all these data points under analytics, so our crawling data, log files, keyword data, and Google Analytics data. Now we take all these data points, we use machine learning and AI to build out recommendations. And also we have alerting system, SEO alerting system in place, and that's under our intelligence suite. A lot of our clients globally actually get Botify and just use the intelligence suite. So they don't even bother to go and deep dive all those different reports that are out there. They don't have the time or the expertise that will allow them to understand what they're looking at. Therefore, they just want recommendations that will give them the most return on investment straight away, and they are bespoke for their website. So what we do here in the action board looks very simple, but it's actually a mega powerful tool. We prioritize our tasks high, medium, low. We theme our tasks, for example, because we have multiple teams sometimes accessing the platform. Maybe some of them would just work on content and just don't want to say recommendation content. Some of them may be just doing internal linking. Voila. So what it does, it looks at your data, updates with every crawl, and provides recommendations that are the most relevant for the site, and shows you which segments are affected, why this is important. And then you can just open it in our URL Explorer to get all the information you need to do the task. So as I mentioned, our intelligence suite is the power of our SEO automation, the most powerful tool I've ever seen as an SEO. I wish I had it back in the day when I was sitting there with just thousands of URLs and columns in a spreadsheet. But basically that takes all the load of you to do all the manual data crunching, and you can focus on execution and talking with different stakeholders within the company, because we know how hard it is and how time consuming this can be. Another thing that we're doing at the moment, we're working on adding ROI calculation for each of those recommendations into the platform. That's going to be coming later this year, because there's a lot of the times, you know, dev teams require calculation on, you know, what's the return investment on this one, where do we put in a sprint, and we want to make our customers' life easier, because it is hard to come up with the number. We know how it works usually, so it would be nice to have a methodology behind it. And then finally, last but not least, probably one of my favorite tools that I wish I had back in the day is the SEO alert system called Alert Panel. And basically, this will notify you every time there's something off going on a website, any issues, and it's scrolling daily your strategic pages. So it's separate from the weekly, for example, regular call for the crawling data. So you're going to get notified about an issue before it affects website health, so you can act upon it straight away. And we know we've been in that position a lot where we've just seen the site performance going down, or we didn't know what it is. It took us a couple of days to figure out, and then it was all too late anyway. Then we were recovering for another 3 months. We've all been there, so it's nice to have that in a place. And the way it works, it can come in as an email, it's in a platform, but also as a Slack and a Slack channel. So that's always super cool. If you're using Slack, you're actually going to be notified there about the issue, so you can't miss a beat. And I just want to show you examples of some of the alerts that we already have preset. So loads of alerts are preset, and it's, you know, just a standard kind of, you want to be notified with a 500 error, 400 errors, that kind of stuff, slow pages. And also we have alerts for the log files as well. So you know what is Google up to, because the log file analysis, you know, Google might spend one day on the website a bit longer. You want to know about it because you want to understand what they're up to. On top of that, you can create custom alerts depending on what you're working on, right? So like, even we integrate with Core Web Vitals data, so you can even be notified if there's a page that scores poorly in LCP, for example. Okay, so depending on what your KPIs are and what you're working on, you can create unlimited different types of alerts that you need. We have custom reports. I know I'm conscious of time, so just finally, one of the latest functions that we've added is the new Core Web Vitals report that's actually over time. So, and you can look at it by segment as opposed to like randomly, like you can now. So you can then, we can do like different segmentations to look at your data as opposed to the entire site on one page. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the presenter. All right. So another thing I need to mention that I haven't showed you yet is the Speedworkers product. And that's something that's groundbreaking for Botify clients. So a lot of our global clients are using the solution, and it's a dynamic pre-rendering solutions for the bots. So particularly when you have JavaScript heavy website, this is a great opportunity to serve content quickly to the bots, and, you know, gain a lot of traffic and rankings off the back of that. So if anyone's interested to find out more about it, would need to be a separate session on that. But that's something in terms, when we're talking about automation and page speed is a major issue for at scale, potentially JavaScript involved, then that's definitely conversations to be had. And I want to just briefly run you through a couple of case studies. This is a global sportswear brand. I'm not going to say who this is because I cannot. I'll be shut. But the brand partners with Botify since 2018, and they wanted to gain visibility into the technical health of their website and understand how Google is crawling their website. At the time, the site was comprised of 265 million URLs, no biggie. So they needed something that crawls at scale. And at first scroll, Botify provided the team with important new learnings about organic search performance that they'd never seen before. And those included Google was not crawling 90% of their websites. 75% of URLs were non-indexable, meaning they had no indent tags or bad canonicals or anything that prevented Google from accessing. And only 1% of URLs were driving search traffic. That's pretty cool. Once we were done with it, after a couple of years or so, they reduced the site load, and that led to Google crawling more of the website. So this is the Venn diagram I showed you before. This was where they were at the beginning, that the overlap was only 12% that Google was actually accessing, whereas now it went up to 92.4%. So that's an amazing result. They've also increased in indexable URLs. At the beginning, there were only 26% URLs that were indexed, could be indexed by Google, and now it's actually more than 50%. And they also increased URLs driving traffic. So before it was, as I mentioned, more than just a little bit over 1%, and now it's actually 30% of URLs are actually driving organic traffic. And then the second brand, it's pretty major beauty brand. They have 14 e-commerce websites and 56 brands. They prolific product offering with new launches each year and investing a lot in content creation across all media. In the beauty industry, we know that content is very important, but they found that the more they were producing, they couldn't see the return on investment because Google haven't been crawling indexing those pages. So it was impossible for them to manage all those websites in one place at scale. They were reliant, they were addicted to paid because we know it's a drug, and most of content during drive any visits. But this is an example of a couple of brands on the main brands under the wing. Before, it was pretty shocking. So 2 million pages. And Google was only indexing 23%, and they increased it to 45%. Another beauty brand of theirs, they were crawling less there, around 1%, and then they moved it to 93%, and out of them, 50% were indexed. So some great results there. And again, you can access this kind of reporting. Being able to see this reporting at every step of the way is really important to understanding the full power of SEO. And they've also been using action board across the site, because as you can imagine, with so many different brands and so many different markets, the understanding of SEO varied from market to market. So they've definitely embraced the intelligence suite for actioning SEO. And finally, they've actually built out a global SEO dashboarding that all the agencies they're working with, all the SEO managers globally are actually accountable for. And they made technical SEO one of their main KPIs in measuring the performance of the site globally, which is pretty impressive. And worth mentioning here, as you can see, we have API connection with things like Data Studio, etc. All right, if one thing, if you can take, I've been going for hours. If you want to take one thing out of today's session, I don't want to sound like Tony Robbins of SEO, but do give yourself a chance and automate all those tasks that we potentially been trained to do manually because we didn't have the technology previously, and start from tomorrow and stand out from the crowd. If you're an agency, you want to, showcase, that you have greater visibility than your competitors. If you're working in-house, you want to have the visibility that your competitors don't have at the moment. And then automate data analysis, automate reporting, and make your life easier as SEO, because we've been historically sitting in a corner trying to data crunch. But now we have the technology that really can save our day and produce the results that we're expecting of us as SEOs these days. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
James,
Thanks.
over to you.
Very much. James, just before you take over, I do have a few questions. Thank you, Agatha. That was really, really good. I think some of the things that I tapped into straight away is I started using Botify. I think back in my first use was like 2015. And I think like you, one thing I find about SEOs from that long ago, because it was quite a long time ago, is they're all amazing at spreadsheets. Like there's a whole bunch of analysts that came out of SEO. So yeah, I feel your pain there. So before I get into the questions, just going to do a quick review. We got some good ones. First of all, I'm going to ask Freddie's question, which is a technical one. So how do you deal with infinite crawl traps? And the example he's given is when you have dates or multiple parameters creating millions of URLs.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. Hopefully I'll do justice, but you can you can create our own robots.txt in Botify and block certain URLs from being crawled, particularly if we know that there might be an issue like this. So we can override your current robots.txt and crawl using our own.
Great, thank you very much. And then on the dashboard side of things, can you set up dashboards that can be created with different people within the business, and how easy is that?
Yes, absolutely. So one thing I haven't showed you today is the custom reporting. So again, I'm a big fan of automating reporting. So the two ways that I've been using reporting, it's the custom reports. So you can very quickly create a dashboard that's going to stay there, update with every crawl. Another thing that we're working on, actually, it's coming in Q2 or Q3, is basically reporting over time, which is really amazing. So you can imagine for technical SEO, that's pretty groundbreaking, being able to report crawl on crawl as opposed to just per one crawl. And that's just lovely to have. So that's trying to enhance our reporting that we have in place already. But yes, it's super easy. It's just a matter of setting up once and it's updated. Another way of reporting that's really popular is through Data Studio, for example, pulling certain data points to Data Studio.
Perfect. Just one other question, actually, just thinking about how I think about Botify. In my mind, you were one of the leaders in this whole field because you were there in the early days creating this solution. And I'm wondering whether you've got like a public roadmap so we can see what features are going to come next. Because I was, like I said, thought leader. It'd be great to see what you're thinking about in the future.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm totally not allowed to tell you what we're working on. It's completely not public. But I've already mentioned a couple of things, which I'm telling you, I'm going to get shot for, but why not? I think I'm the most excited. I'm always excited about new features. And also I love platforms when you can grow with the platform. Okay. So things like I've showed you, like the Core Web Vitals, for example, it's like a small update, but it makes a difference for our clients that are working on Core Web Vitals updating, improving Core Web Vitals. You can actually see it over time, as opposed to just a snippet, and you can see it for specific segments or pages. So we're solving issues for SEOs, and because this platform is created by SEOs, run by SEOs, SEOs working here, we all understand the problem, and that's what I love about it. And when I say we grow with the platform, it's not just a crawler. It actually is SEO and SEO enterprise platform that integrates all these data points. And I was guilty of not using log files in my previous life. Maybe I've come across it a couple of times, but that's purely because a lot of the things I was working on and just didn't involve that kind of data. And so I've grown as an SEO with that platform in the past year. So the new stuff that's coming, again, it will allow you to grow. And I'm mega fan of productization of SEO, as you know, my agency background probably showed you. I'm super passionate about it because we have been historically so bad at selling SEO and speaking beautifully about the power of SEO, that and Botify allows you to actually straight away you can see, oh, like new things that you can do, new products that you can propose to your clients, for example. So the stuff maybe Cyril's looking at me, he's like, no, don't say anything. But we're looking at integrated third-party data, which is super exciting. We understand that having third-party data is really important, and competitive data, for example. So imagine having that integrated in one place with your Botify data. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we're working on this year, and this every quarter is something, and that's what makes it super exciting.
Awesome, great responses. There are some more great questions here, but I'm very aware that James hasn't started his talk yet.
I know, I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Really, really good stuff. So thank you, Agatha. Really, really appreciate that. And James, do you want to share your screen and show your face? There it is.
I do. It's a bit dark here, so I'm sorry. You can't really see me, but you're not missing out on much. I will share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So thanks, Agatha, for that rundown, and thanks everybody for coming today. So I'm going to talk about some of the ways we use Botify at IMWT. So just to really quickly introduce myself, my name is James. I'm the head of the data and engineering team at In Marketing We Trust. So the data and engineering team mostly focuses on tool development and data science. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. My hobbies are everything to do with beer, drinking beer, talking about beer, brewing beer. I could do a presentation about beer, but I was asked not to, and petting cats. I'm also very proud of my beard. You can't see it because I'm very dark here, but I wasn't able to grow a beard until last year, so that was a big milestone for me. And just because I'm here to answer the big questions, in this picture, I can confirm I'm dressed as a cactus, not as a pickle. So that came up earlier when I was doing a run through of this. One more thing about me that might make me some enemies amongst the SEOs is that I'm also a developer. So there's a bit of enmity between our two professions. I swear I love you guys. But yeah, I think I hear some nasty things said about devs in SEO meetings. Specifically, I spent the first 10 years of my career working on tools to visualize data and make reporting on data a bit more easy. And that's why I was brought into IMWT. So originally we were working on an internal linking project for a large website, probably around 10 million pages. And for our project, we wrote our own web crawler and then built an analytics platform on top of that. So we built reporting to show issues with HTTP status codes and links to duplicate content and things like that. And all of that meant that when the first time I saw Botify, it scared the hell out of me. Because I saw that this is an awesome platform that was basically doing what we were selling as a service, so making that self-service for people. So I thought to myself, well, bugger, they're going to take 50% of my job. And then gradually I realized, well, you know what, that's really important, but that's probably the 50% of the job I don't particularly enjoy doing. That's a bit of manual work. So it's great to have that automated. And that gives us a chance to focus on the more interesting aspects of internal linking optimization using Botify to support that. So rather than talking about how Botify took my job, I want to talk about how Botify made my job more interesting. So yeah, my talk is on data-driven internal linking optimization with Botify as the data provider, and we love Botify. So there are kind of 3 different high-level use cases we use Botify for in our internal linking optimization. So identifying quick wins and tidy up work, post hoc selection of test and baseline groups for experiments after they've been launched, and data supply for machine learning models. And I'll just really quickly go over all 3 of those. So the first is finding quick wins. So this is covering off a bit of the stuff Agata talked about as well. But one of the things we do when we do internal linking optimization is make sure that we're focusing internal links on the most important pages. So those are the pages that make money, that have potential for high engagement, whatever your metric of importance is, we want to link to them the most of any page. So trying to do that kind of internal linking optimization though, on a site that's broken, so has a lot of links to error pages, all the things I talked about as potential issues, is a bit like having a house made out of straw. The big bad wolf is going to come and blow it down. You shouldn't be smoking in bed, and you will probably not get great results from doing the more advanced things. So one of the tools we use to find quick wins, again, as Agata touched on, is the action board. This is really awesome. It highlights kind of the high-level issues with internal links. We go through that, preferably before we start working with the client, say what needs to be fixed, write up a list of recommendations to the development team, and then send that off to them for them to action. And then we continue to use that over the life of a project to make sure that our beautiful internal linking optimization work isn't being trampled on by horrible changes to the site. Again, as Agata said, website's a living thing. So there's always things going on that can break everything. Just a real example of something that we used Botify for, a very successful project. We were working with a large Australian e-commerce site. We found they had about 280 million pages known by Google, so a giant site. So that's 11 pages for every human in Australia. Only about 100 million of those pages were being crawled by Google at all, so that the log analyzer told us that. And less than 1% of those crawled pages were actually producing traffic. So that's even worse than the stats we saw before. That's 1% of 33%, so terrible. By doing that, we fixed it up. We dropped about 60% of the useless pages. So by delinking and getting Google to stop crawling, and increased the links to about 5 million of the good pages. And the result of that was a 47% increase in traffic and 1.6 million non-branded visits per month. This was a site that's main revenue stream was through ads. So it made a huge difference to their revenue to be getting that extra traffic onto their site. So yeah, again, that's just been a really quick talk about how we do things and the success of that for the base levels. That gives us a really good foundation to build on top of to do the more fun internal linking work. So like having a house made of stone, you've made the wolf sad, he can't blow it down anymore. You can probably smoke in bed now, but I wouldn't recommend it still. And yeah, you have the opportunity to do cool stuff. So the second thing that we use Botify for is post hoc selection of tests and baselines. So when you're launching, I suppose, any test for SEO, but especially an internal linking test, you should have a good idea of how your experiment is going to run. So we'd say create a hypothesis. So this is what we want to do. This is what we think is going to change as a result of this action. This is the data we need to gather to make the change and to measure the change. This is how it will be implemented, and this is how we plan on measuring that. So loosely, we'd say we want to have a test and control group, with the test group being the group of URLs that will receive the treatment, in this case, probably receiving more internal links. And the control group will be a group of similar pages that aren't being changed. But because nothing is ever easy, often these experiments go wrong, again, because websites are living things. So there was a real example where we carefully designed an experiment. Everything looked good. We were excited to launch it. Then about 3 days after the experiment was launched, half the pages in our control group were no indexed by a separate initiative we weren't aware of. So obviously that totally ruined our plan for our experiment. There's also cases where you find yourself in the midst of an accidental experiment. So again, if you're working on a large website with 300 people all doing things at different times, sometimes something goes catastrophically wrong. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world. Sometimes something going wrong is a chance for an unexpected learning. So the example I use for that is of Alexander Fleming, who is the discoverer of penicillin. He went on holiday for a long weekend. He was doing research on bacteria and came back and found one of his petri dishes was contaminated with mold, and that the bacteria around the mold was all dying. So that was how penicillin was discovered. The mold was penicillin. I don't want to claim that our internal linking optimization work is as important as penicillin, but who's to say it's not? So we've experienced both of those scenarios, and when that happens, Botify really rescues us. So what we do in that situation is that we'll do post hoc selection of test and baseline groups. We can do that for internal linking tests where the number of links, well, where we're changing the number of links to a selected group of pages by using the comparison between previous crawls and the current crawl. So we can set up filters on our data sets. I would love to show you some real data, but it's all real client data, so I can't do it. But we can set up filters where we can say, give me all of the pages where on the most recent crawl, URLs have over 1,000 links in links. And previously to that, they had under 100 in links. So we know that those are pages that had something that happened to change their internal linking profile. And then we can filter ourselves a control group to say, give me all of the pages where the number of internal links is relatively the same. So it was under 100 before, and it's still under 100 now. And also, just as an extra control, let's say that the click depth, so the number of clicks from the homepage, hasn't actually changed. So by doing that, we can get two distinct groups. One that we know a treatment has been applied to, and might not be the exact treatment we thought was going to be applied, because maybe something went wrong during implementation, those terrible developers. But we still know that it's going to be an interesting experiment to run. And when we have that data, we're able to do causal impact analyses. So causal impact is a tool probably we see popping up all over the place in the SEO world now. It tells you, well, it tries to tell you what the effect is of a given intervention by forecasting what would have happened had that intervention not taken place. And it requires a test series and at least one baseline series. So we're able to feed that post hoc data gotten out of Botify into causal impact and understand whether the internal linking profile changes to the pages that we're testing on has actually made a difference. Which is really cool, and again has saved our lives a few times when experiments have gone wrong. And the last thing I want to talk about really quickly is using Botify as a data supply for machine learning models. So I have a picture here of a few of the members of the data and engineering team, and it looks like we're sitting at the pub smashing beers, but what we're actually doing in this picture is sitting around asking questions while we sit at the pub smashing beers. And one of the questions that we were asking was, we know that some pages respond well to internal linking changes, but some pages just don't. And we don't really know why some pages do and some pages don't. It's a hard nut to crack. So we thought that maybe we could identify, I just want to shout out Oleg as well. Thank you for sharing this picture. It made it into the Prezzo. But our approach to answering the question was, maybe we could train a machine learning model to predict whether a page would rank in the top 10 search results for a given keyword, given all of the things that we know about the page. So once we had the machine learning model, the idea was that we could test to see if the prediction of whether the page would rank for a given keyword would change if we made a change to the internal page rank and to the internal link count. So, for example, we could ask the model, is page X predicted to rank, knowing everything that we know about it? And then the model could respond, no, we don't think that page is going to rank. And then we could ask the model, do we think the page is going to rank if we give it an extra 500 links? And sometimes the model would say yes. So that's an indication to us that that particular page is one that will respond well to receiving extra internal links. So to create a model like that with any level of accuracy is just a buttload of data. And this was a large website. So Botify really helped us by providing a lot of the data that we used for that. So they gave us huge monthly data dumps for the site. It was a site of about 10 million pages. And there are about 250 features that Botify made available to us to train the machine learning model on. So things like the number of internal links, core web vital data, the number of similar pages on the site, and just a lot more. And that helped us train that model. So we got that data and then combined it with data from other sources. So Botify was providing us on-site details of URLs. Search Console was giving us data on click-through rate. GA was providing us data on bounce rate, and we were using a third-party external backlink data provider. And all of that went together into a delicious data salad. So what we didn't have at the time, but what would have been really useful, and something that Botify does, is it can connect to Search Console and GA. So the client didn't have that set up, but had they had that at the time, we could have gotten that as part of the Botify data dump, and that would have reduced the need to join that data in ourselves. Something Agata touched on right at the end as well is the connection to third-party platforms. So I think that we'll be able to have external backlink data directly in Botify in the near future. So that would have crossed that out as well if that was available, and we would have just been getting the data directly from Botify, and we wouldn't have had to have had this data combining process anymore. So there's another example of Botify stealing work from you. Anyway, we trained the model with all of that data and got it relatively accurate. So we had some happy nerd faces. We're about 75% accurate in predicting whether or not a page would rank in the top 10 search results, given all of the data that we had. And then we kind of took that a step further by using that to plan link distribution across the entire site. So earlier we were using it to predict whether or not a page would respond well to receiving extra internal links, but really we don't want to just be lobbing extra links at a given page. We end up with sites with 1,000 links per page, which doesn't help anybody. So really we wanted to be more clever about how we assign those links, and we thought that part of that could be reassigning. So we also asked the model, is page Y predicted to rank? And sometimes the model would say yes. And then we could say, is page Y predicted to rank if we decrease the link count by 500? And the model would say yes. So that might be a candidate for having fewer links and still performing well. And in that case, we might reassign 500 links from page Y to page X to bring us to a position where both of those pages can potentially rank. Obviously, there's some sanity checks around that. We don't just want to be replacing links at random. We don't want links to the home page suddenly going to a page for hotels in Fiji or something like that. So there was logic built into that model to say, does this link make sense to replace with this other one? I won't go too much into that because I could be here all night. But this is live on a site at the moment, and this is a test that's currently in progress. So we're still waiting to get enough data to confirm whether or not that's been successful. But either way, I think this is something that we really want to keep on building on top of, because I think there's a lot of application for this in finding other potential SEO improvements to given pages. So yeah, that's just been a really quick run through of some of the things that we're using Botify for on our end. Thanks for listening, and feel free to ask any questions.
Great, thank you very much, James. Very blurry face, by the way. I don't know what's going on the camera.
There I am.
There you are. Yeah. So just a quick request for any questions. We don't have any at the moment, James, but one I'd like to ask is about the importance of internal linking. So this, I keep seeing internal linking popping up in different blogs and on Twitter, and it seems to be of growing importance and interest. Do you want to just give us your view on that?
Yeah, so it is a bit of a hot button topic in SEO at the moment, which is great for us because I think that we're really good at it. We've definitely seen it be effective in shifting performance for important pages. I think it's something that is easy to get wrong. So I think that's where a lot of the importance is. Yeah, I think it's easy just to apply band-aid solutions as well, when really we should be looking at internal linking as like a holistic system across an entire site, to make sure that we're linking to the most important pages in relevant ways. I think, well, I know that was shared with us a while ago. John Muller came out and said that internal linking is absolutely vital for SEO. So it's been going off again, a lot of the discussion around it. But again, something that's easy to get wrong, and like it really, especially for large sites, where there's, you know, potentially, again, hundreds of millions of pages, it really needs a data-driven approach to making sure that you're linking to the right places.
Great, thank you. Well, we don't have any more questions from the audience. So I think what we'll do is we will wrap this up, and just a reminder that we will send this around to everyone. So if you're here, you've obviously signed up and you will get this if you want to watch any part of it back. Before we go, I just want to remind you all that obviously Google made a big announcement just over a week ago with regards to retiring or sunsetting Google Analytics. The reminder in that is that we are a Google marketing platform partner, one of 20 in Australia, and we are currently putting together our series of webinars and talks on what sunsetting means and what you need to do. If there's one thing that I will encourage everyone on this call to do if you're using Google Analytics, is get dual tagging in place. What we're telling our customers is that you don't have 15 months, really you've got 3 months, because you want that year's worth of data collected into your analytics environment, so you can do the seasonal analysis, and then you can do the comparisons come next year when they turn Google Analytics, Universal Analytics off. So stay tuned. We have got a bunch of events lined up there, including I'm gonna go out here like a cowboy and tell you something that hasn't been announced or formally agreed, but we are looking at doing you'll be invited to come and join us, sling on your VR goggles and join us in the metaverse for a panel. So that will be coming in end of April or start of May. So we're going to wrap up now. Before I wrap up, I'd like to thank James once more for such an amazing talk. Really appreciate you sharing those insights, James. Thank you. And Agatha and the team at Botify, thank you for your wonderful presentation and for creating such a useful tool. And we look forward to using it for many years to come.
Thank you so much, Paul and James and the team. And thank you guys for your time. We know it's late, but do let us know if you have any questions, because there might be, you need to sleep on all the information that James and I've given you. And thank you for covering internal linking, James. That is really important.
Excellent, thank you. Agatha, actually, just one thing, I will include your contact details within our emails that go out to everyone. So if you do have any questions that you like to ask direct, or if you want to use the tool, which is obviously something that we recommend, get in touch with Agatha and she'll be able to help you out.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
evening.
Good night.
Thanks,
Bye-bye. Bye.